The Big Issue. Breaking down the issues that matter.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Leadership Podcast. It's another edition of The Big Issue. And of course, we are a bit behind schedule. It won't take much of a time. As usual, I'm your regular host, George Agba, and of course, with me here in the studio are our in-house analyst. We have Silas Ezeugu and Paul Agbo. Well, the big issue of the day is the strike action embarked on the Academic Staff Union of Nigerian universities, and it's the waning influence of the union. Well, the federal government summoned pro-chancellors and vice-chancellors of federal universities to a meeting slated for September 6, 2022. And this is coming amid concerns within ASUU circle that there are plans to whittle its influence on lecturers. Well, in the past 6 months, students of universities across the country have been at home. And there's an African proverb that says, when two elephants fight, it is the grass that suffers. All efforts to reach an agreement between the federal government and ASUU has yielded no result, as the union has maintained its ground that until its demands are met, it will never call off the strike action. And after the 6 months warning strike, I think, ASUU this week embarked on an indefinite strike following the federal government's adamant that it is no work, no pay. This entails that for the past 6 months that ASUU had been on strike, lecturers are not entitled to salary for this month. Well, before, the federal government had summoned the pro-chancellors and vice-chancellors of universities to the September 6 meeting. The pro-chancellors in the country had called for the democratization of ASUU. The Committee of Pro-Chancellors of State-Owned Universities called for the immediate democratization of the membership of unions in the university to the extent of the freedom of any individual to belong to a union with options of not belonging. It held that unions are not superior to the councils of the universities that are their employers. The pro-chancellors who made the call while criticizing ASUU president, Professor Emmanuel Osedeke, for referring to some state-owned universities in the country as quacks, said the statement was insulting, contemptuous, and unbecoming of the president of ASUU. Well, I think, Silas, the issue at stake today is the plot, or let's just say alleged plot, to whittle the powers of ASUU and ensure that it loses its grip on university lecturers. And most people believe that the invitation by the federal government to pro-chancellors and vice-chancellors is part of the plot to actually whittle down ASUU powers. What will you say in this regard? Is he really going to solve the issue, the academic situation we have in our universities?
Well, it's difficult to say for now because this battle has been long drawn out, 6 months, and then they've been rolling over the strike 2 weeks, 1 month. Now it's 6 months, I'm sure that at the beginning of this strike, they will not have emphasized that they will stay 6 months at home. And one thing I also want to point out that lecturers don't want to be on strike. They want to be active, teaching their, doing their work and earning their pay. So for them to sacrifice, and stay without pay for 6 months and suffer that, it means that whatever they're asking for, they are something that's very, very important to them. Now, what government has tried to resort to now is to divide and rule taxes. And so that I can use the pro-chancellors and vice-chancellors to bring their ranks. I don't know how it's going to end up. We don't exactly, we can only say this is what is likely to happen. Use the divide and rule party. Find a way to force fully get the university system or working again. Already already called on strike and they are going back. And you know also that among all the universities in Nigeria, most of them are not federal universities. Most are private universities, and those ones have not been on strike. So the children of the middle class and upper class who are able to afford that don't have interrupted academic calendar. It's the federal universities mostly and some state universities that are neck deep in this mess. And if the government is calling protests, I think they're still looking for a way either to peacefully resolve it or to force isolation. Either way, they have to finish this work on the negotiation table. Any possible thing. Academics are not like ordinary workers. They are people intellects. They work on the level of ideas. So you have to come with a good idea to meet their own. And if you want to do a strong hand tactics, you know, you can say you can force a horse to the river, you can't force it to drink.
Well, oh, you heard what Silas has said, and of course, Silas seems to be agreeing with the lecturers that they have a valid point for them to have stayed and insisted. I think the demands they have made are quite genuine. But a federal government, especially the Minister of Labour, and I think the Minister of State for Labour, had come out to say clearly. I think Festus Keyamo stand say, ASUU is not the only union in the country, and the lecturers are not the only people in the country for them to demand for. I think he pegged that money to a particular amount, like trillion. I was saying, and what Keyamo was trying to insinuate is that ASUU, like Oliver Twist, are asking for much. And just recently, I think they said that some of the agreements had been met, some of the demands had been met by the federal government. And what was just left was for them to resume before this issue of no work, no pay now set in. The federal government is grandstanding that they will not be paid salaries for the 6 months they had been at home. As we say, no, that can't work. I think that was part of the main, that was even the main reason why they embarked on the indefinite strike.
George, it's like beating a child and asking the child not to cry. And it's like giving what like in the local palace. You say you give a bottle of water and use the other hand to collect a bottle of wine. So in this case, I don't know why the federal government, in whose interest is this current grandstanding by the federal government. ASUU, I listened to the ASUU leadership, and they said the reason why they are asking for their 6 months salary is that by the time they go back to the classrooms, that they are going to start from where they stop in terms of academic
The academic calendar.
Catch up.
They will try to catch up. There are a lot of students, both undergraduate and postgraduates, who they need to prepare them for graduation, for NYC. They need to mark scripts. They need to double their work, even triple their work
In order to
in order to meet up. So the federal government has no basis. And I see this grandstanding and as not helping the image of the federal government. If the federal government and ASUU have reached considerable agreement, so to speak, why don't you pay them their money and let them go and do their work? How much is 6 months' salary compared to the kind of things we see in the country or here? The oil theft, people working, people going to their place of work and not contributing anything to the economy. Example, Kaduna Refinery, Warri Refinery, Port Harcourt Refinery. Even the federal government announced sometimes that they've been paying over 10 billion or so as salaries
to those who are not doing anything.
To those who are not doing anything, and they aim more, a lot of them aim more than ASUU members.
By far.
So the more the federal government grandstand, the worse it becomes, and their image is on the line. And look at the campaigns. The campaigns are about starting in the next 28 days. So I don't think this grandstanding will help the image of the federal government.
Well, thank you.
And one other thing, George, federal government announced recently that 80% of ASUU demand have been met. Let Nigerians know
what are demands.
What are their demands?
How they will be met.
Yes, because it is of public knowledge that ASUU's demand is to the tune of about 1.1 to 1.3 trillion. And only 200 billion, about 220 billion
have been paid
so far. So how come federal government has suddenly met about 80%? Let us have the details so that Nigerians can be better informed and appreciate the efforts.
Yes.
Yeah. So all this grandstanding will not help. It will further damage the relationship between ASUU and the federal government. And this issue of democratization of ASUU will not work, because if we democratize, as ASUU is a union, the same thing will be applicable to the nurses, the doctors, the teachers union, and all several unions around the country. It will not help.
Well, we will just take a short break now. And as we do so, we'll be hoping that Avias will actually contribute to the conversation on the big issue. And by the time we come back, we were expecting to see their contributions by their way of comment trickling in, and of course, we're actually going to take them as they come. Don't go offline. We'll be back in a moment.
For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.
The Big Issue. Breaking down the issues that matter.
Welcome back. We are still on the big issue in Leadership Podcast. And of course, the big issue of the day is the strike action embarked on by the Academic Staff Union of Universities and the waning influence of the union on lecturers. Well, Silas, let's look critically at the letter inviting the vice-chancellor and the pro-chancellors. The letter titled Industrial Action by University-Based Unions, Invitation to a Special Interactive Meeting with the Honorable Minister of Education, reads in part, as the pro-chancellors and the chairman of councils and the vice-chancellors are quite aware, the industrial action by the university-based union has led to the closure of the institutions since February 14, 2022. You are also aware that the non-teaching unions have suspended their industrial actions with effect from 24th August 2022. While the final decision is being awaited from the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASUU, it has become necessary for the governing councils and the management of the universities to be briefed on the decisions and action taken by the federal government so far to allow for a well-coordinated review of the situation, including building consensus around succeeding actions. And of course, embarking on the indefinite strike, the National Executive Council of ASUU, at its meeting, after its meeting, tweeted that it will boycott further negotiation with the Buhari-led administration because of its insistence of no work, no pay policy. So you now understand that the main issue now, the lockdown now, or that's on that no work, no pay. But then you may ask, the federal government is actually perhaps putting this kind of sanction, they perhaps to serve as a deterrent for any future industrial action. Because you know, in Nigeria, I think ASUU strike had become a yearly ritual. Though some may take long, some might not take long. In 2020, while the country was on lockdown, ASUU was on strike. In 2021, I think there was still that strike. So if the federal government does not adopt this no work, no pay policy, don't you think every year students will always be forced to sit at home, and it's affecting the academic calendar? You hear us saying that they are going to start afresh. That means 6 months gone. When some students are supposed to graduate, they will be in school, and some of them become old. That is worrisome.
No, Judge, I said something at the beginning. I said that lecturers don't want to go on strike. Ideally, they don't want to be on strike. They want to be doing their work the normal way it's supposed to be done, paid at the end of the month. This one have gone off salary for 5-6 months in the economy of Nigeria the way it is now. Do you know the kind of comment families have gone through since that time? So you need to look at this side so that even themselves they have been victims of their own strike, and they don't want to be victims of that strike. So the issue is to find a way to make sure that this kind of strike don't come up like this. And the bonus, I think the problem that many times government negotiates in bad faith. In labor negotiations, one of the elements that's important is good faith. Negotiation in good faith. It appears that government has always negotiated in bad faith. They will sign off something that they have no intention of implementing. And when they begin to default and also begin to compare this thing has not been implemented, they begin to make it look as ASUU are the corporates there. If government has signed a deal, they are bound by that deal to implement it. If they're having issues about implementing it, they can call us and say, come, look at the situation we are in. Okay, can we adjust in this way? To say you are not going to give them anything in the next 6 months because you say no work, no play, no pay. Did you do your work, your property in the first place that was staved off the strike in the first place? Because there are two sides to every argument. If they had done the needful, this strike would not have been back. Well, ASUU always gives a warning, 1 month advance, 2 months. If this so and so is not done, and many times the government does not even start negotiation until they have gone on strike. So that's why I say that government sometimes negotiates from the position of bad faith. So I think that what they can meet themselves halfway. Okay, look, we've not really worked for all these months. So you're maybe not be entitled to all the salary, but that some percentages should agree that look, for this percentage you need to have. If those guys are intellectuals, they need to continually study to be able to deliver on their work. Even if they are not going to work, it doesn't mean that they're still not studying. Part of the work, kind of work, they're intellectuals. So they're also doing work even when at home, by also keeping their brain, their minds ready for work, whatever. Because you don't just call a lecturer, call up today to go today, you just come and start blabbing. That's also prepare. And if they are say call up today and they are lecturers today, it means they have done some work prior to that time. So we can say okay that you will not be entitled to all the salary, all the whole package, but there's some money that is supposed to keep somebody alive, keep him functioning. That this so you can attend to so and so. So but this other one, you never attend to this one. Then you can now negotiate with them and agree with them and also put your cards on the table. But what is annoying as you can see government filtering away money. When the government tells you that is borrowing money from China to build a railway to neighboring countries, even begging them to build a railway, and they see the kind of money involved, they say, okay, you are prioritizing these things over the the industry that produces the intellect, the brains that are supposed to run the economy and take it to the next level. Well, so those are things that they also, and they say that if one person can make away 100 and something billion stealing already, just stealing, and tell them they don't have money. So government also need to do its own homework, because you are talking. You see, that so ASUU to me is it and the medical association that the top professional intellectual unions that can engage government at that level and stand their ground, because they're not people you can easily send away and hire new people.
But but in engaging the government, what most Nigerians who are actually in support of democratization of ASUU, their own position is that ASUU, number one, should understand that this same federal government they are fighting, most of the government officials have children who don't school in these Nigerian schools. Most of them are abroad. And the people who are bearing the brunt for this incessant strike are the children of poor Nigerians. Children of poor Nigerians who cannot afford the kind of money they pay in private universities and cannot afford money to go abroad and school.
So, George,
Yes.
these lecturers also have their children in the same universities where they lecture, because they don't earn the kind of money that should take their own children to foreign universities. If you look at their salary level, the person do something else that's bringing in money. It's this the politicians, the political class, and the top business class that have the kind of money that can send children and pay the school fees abroad. This, like India said something, that his own children are in Nigerian universities. He's a minister. Okay, I don't know why he did that, but I applaud him for that. But many of the lecturers, they are the age where their children are still in the universities, and they don't really have that kind of earning that can take their children. So they also have their children at home. It's a collateral something that they're also suffering. No, so the way out is that somehow they have to meet themselves halfway, and say, okay, for the sake of so it's okay, give up this, but let us start something.
But at the end of the day, we should, even as much as we condemn the federal government for its lack of empathy, let's just understand that a substantial part of their demand had been met. And that was why the government said, you can now come and start. But the idea of this work on it.
George, I don't understand what federal government means by substantial part of their demand, or 80%. Is it that they've adopted UTAS as against IPPIS?
Sure.
Have they adopted UTAS?
Can they start paying with that platform?
Can they start paying with that platform? So government need to, it's not enough to come on air
and say
give us the details so that we can understand where we are. Not that you just come and, for me, it's like a sweeping statement, just to win some kind of sympathy to government. But me, I don't see this issue of salary. Eventually, government will pay. Recall when the resident doctors went on strike, and the government threatened that they will not be paid. At the end of the day,
they have to pay them.
They have to pay, because if ASUU giving, it will be a trend, and I can assure you that the Nigerian Labour Congress will not accept it. This issue of democratization will further worsen the situation, because NLC will join forces with ASUU. The government is trying to break their ranks,
yes,
and to worsen the whole situation.
Well,
and in this precarious time, we don't need an enlarged strike by labor union in the country. So the best thing for government is just give them their money and let there be peace, so that we can go and face issues in the campaigns. Not that we will be discussing ASUU. And government will be at a losing end, because the opposition will use it against them. Whether you like insinuate that ASUU has been infiltrated by the opposition party, nobody wants to know that one. You have failed as a government, as a governing party. So the best thing, if ASUU has agreed considerably, give them their salary and let them go and work. Because students are tired. We shouldn't be, we are past the level of all these, the big issue. So now it's just about salary. Give them their salary.
If that's the only thing,
Just give them.
Or meet them half somewhere. That's okay.
They will not accept anything less than their full month salary. They will accept. Because if government succeeds in doing that, I can bet you government will repeat same thing if another embark on strike.
And the government will even just decide not
to
resolve the matter.
Public opinion has been that federal government does not consider education as an integral part of our national development and security. Look at what happened in the aviation sector. When they threatened strike, within hours, their demands were met. And the aviation workers went back.
Because if they go on strike, it will
can't fly.
It will have direct
Negative
impact on them.
I don't want to dwell
on the leaders themselves.
I don't want to dwell on this issue of public elected officials sending their children abroad to school. You know that in other climes, it's an aberration. It will consider abomination for political leaders to send their children somewhere else. But Nigeria is a normal thing. They will say that if you
class thing.
If you have the money, if you have the means,
The class thing.
if you have the means, why is the British Prime Minister not sending his children to US? Why is the British Prime Minister not going to US for medical checks? It's a national, the love of the country.
But I think I'm even agreeing.
You can never find a British Prime Minister being driven in a car not made in the United Kingdom. That's national pride. It's a national pride thing. It's not an issue of you have the means. The British Prime Minister has the means to send his children to the UK, to Canada. But because it's a national responsibility, and that is how you start resolving or developing your economy. They say he has the means.
Well, thank you, Paul. Let's look at just one thing again before we actually round up. I think that is what the Secretary of the Pro-Chancellors Committee, Marcus Awubifa, he argued that state universities cannot be forced to implement agreement reached between the federal government and her workers in the universities to which they are not parties. Now, I think that is one reason why they are talking of democratization of ASUU, because the state university are not part of the federal workers. I think we are talking about the federal universities and the state universities. And what they are now saying is that you cannot force the state university to now embark on strike because the federal government is refusing to reach an agreement with its workers, especially the lecturers at the federal universities.
Yes. No, I also know that, for instance, that.
Before we come to that, let's see. I think we have one of our viewers here contributing, and we have Ken Orisejalon. He said ASUU does not know when the ovation is loudest. So unfortunate for them. You can see that is the Nigeria. You see that whatever I was saying here is at the minds of Nigerians. Talking the mind. You see now that at the end of the day, most of them out there are angry with ASUU because they feel that they are taking it too far. Just like Chino Achebe will say, when the handshake goes beyond the elbow, it has become another thing.
No,
back to you, Silas.
This indefinite, after 6 months, cause a lot of despair among people who are hoping that things can resume. Because people want to move on with their lives, and they have been stagnated by this time. So you can understand that sentiment.
So,
But coming to the state university issue, I would say that there's a point in that because the employer of state universities are state governments.
that is even, sorry to cut you there, in addition, that is even why even state governors, especially governors on the platform of the All Progressive Congress, yesterday in addressing journalists at the State House in ASUU Villa, they said that they were going to even take over negotiations.
And you know, already many of the state universities are not even on strike. I have a close person who is.
And most of them are pulling out.
Some of them are not, because even if they reach agreement with the ASUU with federal government, the state governments are not binding to implement them. Or I have not seen that agreement in full to know what it is, so that there are some portion of it that applies to what state
The
universities.
federal government is
To state universities.
about 80% have been met.
So I want to know. A lot I've not seen that. I don't know whether that part of that money that goes to state universities. So if that part that goes to state, that means state universities have something to gain from that side, and have joined it because their interests are carried along. Because they come to the issue of salary, is the doctors are paid according to federal workers and state workers.
Workers, of course.
So when it comes to that, and I know some governors have said they have been paying their workers even when they have strike. I heard a governor from the north saying it may stop now if they continue, because they're just doing what they call sympathy strike. That he has been paying them even when they are at home. But their colleagues in the federal universities, where the federal government have adopted a work, not pay strategy, have not been paid for 6 months. You understand? So there's a sense in Nuko, they have no really any reason to join the strike. And that's why people are saying, okay, but don't go to the point of saying that you're a federal worker, university staff, lecturer, and you can say, I don't want to belong. If they bring a policy in the university that affects the lecturers, everybody who's a lecturer there is going to what? Benefit. So by association, you are going to benefit whatever ASUU. So I don't know whether you can individually pull out of it. But like Paul said, NS will never allow their wings to be broken.
Well, that is the much we can take for today's edition of The Big Issue. Of course, I would like to thank our viewers for keeping tab with us. And of course, our in-house analysts for addressing the big issue the way it should be. Join us same time tomorrow for another edition of this program. Do have a wonderful day.
Thank you for watching. For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.